You see, Efteling has a dark and terrifying past. A past intertwined with a piece of music so ghostly it can wake the dead. And it all starts with a song called the Danse Macabre, and an attraction named Spookslot. Before talking about the Danse Macabre, it's important to understand the attraction that it replaced. Spookslot. Spookslot wasn't just any haunted house. There isn't a ride vehicle of any kind. You're not transported by a machine from show scene to show scene. Instead, Spookslot welcomes you to keep still, to look into this vast set, listening, watching this macabre spectacle take place. According to the pre-show, an Eastern spirit tells the story of the castle Efteling's gardener, who one day discovers a treacherous witch in the castle's grounds. This witch is captured and sentenced to death by 3 judges. Before her fiery demise, the witch placed a curse on the Count's family, mainly him and his daughter Esmeralda. A curse that would play out night after night. During its creation, Spookslot was brought to life more like a dance or live performance, with each technician having to play a very specific role as part of a live ensemble with the infamous Ton van der Ven as conductor. Figures breathe as you or I would. The judges rock from side to side, and as each moment becomes more unsettling, the show moves on. When you consider the analog technology that is powering Spookslot, it becomes more of a work of art, just filled with a human's touch. This is perhaps the most amazing thing about old attractions, especially ones with animatronics like Spookslot, is that the whole show was performed by a group of humans and recorded onto tape. It's hard to even consider how that works, especially in a digital age. Watching Spookslot, you were captivated, like a spell has been placed on you, terrified to move, to even make a sound. The show is partnered with a piece of music just as terrifying, just as chilling, the Danse Macabre. The Danse Macabre, or Dance of Death, is meant to serve as a powerful reminder. Emerging in the early 15th century, the artwork typically depicts a skeletal figure dancing with the living, leading all people from all walks of life to their grave. Its purpose? To remind us all that death is inevitable. However, instead of wanting to keep us in fear at the idea of our immortality, the Danse Macabre was created to remind us that death is a natural part of life, an event to be accepted rather than feared. During the time of the 14th and 15th century, life was hard. Constant wars and sickness were a never-ending worry. You may have heard of the 100-Year War or the Black Plague. These events would have brought death into the consciousness of everyone on a daily basis. However, the artwork represents that death is the great equalizer, that everyone, regardless of their status, their wealth, will eventually die. The dance is a reminder that death is not something to be feared, but rather welcomed as a natural part of life. These tones were later transformed from one art form into another. The artist? French composer Camille Saint-Saëns. The instruments chosen by Saint-Saëns are said to represent the Dance of Death, led by the infamous violin solo, representing death playing a fiddle to lead this dance. The iconic sounds of the xylophones in the piece mimic the rattling of bones, vividly painting the image of skeletal figures rising from their graves, engaging in a Danse Macabre. In my opinion, Spookslot and the music from the Danse Macabre are a perfect fit. The music perfectly embodies the tone of the attraction, and it is impossible to imagine one without the other. As time went on, refurbishments were becoming more and more needed, and in 2022 the Ghost Castle closed its doors for the last time. But something much more fearsome was brewing, something that would take the name of death itself, something that would change the lives of the charlatans forever. Virginie and Otto Charlatan travel with their family heirloom, a barrel organ named Esmeralda. She can play any song from any genre, but something about the melody is always off. Strangely, she is also their guide. In fact, Esmeralda has led the charlatans all around the world, this time to a new camp in a forest named Haverwald. However, something is wrong with this place. There is a presence. In fact, one night they hear a piece of orchestral music coming from the forest. Led by their curiosity, Virginie and Otto Charlatan follow this melody and stumble upon a grave. To their surprise, the grave To their surprise, the grave belongs to Virginie's great-great-grandfather and world-famous composer Joseph Charlatan. Rumour has it that many years ago, Joseph and his whole entire orchestra disappeared without a single trace. Why is his grave there? What happened to him? And what is playing this ghostly melody? They awake in the morning to find that Esmeralda is missing. They can't just leave their family heirloom and precious guide, so they journey back into the Haverwald forest to rescue her. It is on this path that Virginie realises that this is the exact same route that Joseph and his orchestra would have taken many years ago. Luckily, they find their Esmeralda in this burnt-out building next to an old chapel. Something is different about her. Something has taken possession. Virginie and Otto Charlatan decide to take refuge and use it as a store to sell natural remedies against this new unmentionable force. The name of this tavern would be In de Zwarte Kat, or the Black Cat. But this partially burnt down building is hiding many dark secrets. One of these is Joseph Charlatan's own journal. In the pages he describes hearing a melody, a song that he must find, a melody that he must play, a song named the Danse Macabre. The story continues that he has been asked to play this newfound composition at the international music competition, the Abbey of Capelle van Katsuvel, although it would be here that him and the rest of his orchestra would meet their end. Upon discovery of this, Otto is attacked and falls ill. It seems that the nearby abbey isn't empty at all. It is inhabited by something of pure evil, and it is watching the charlatans. This creature later attacks Otto again and drags him back to the chapel. Virginie later follows these tracks to the nearby abbey. The same music echoes throughout, more powerful and more frightful than ever before. She finds Otto, but he has been taken by the darkness. This unmentionable being is back, stronger and more powerful than ever before, luring us mortals, us stervelings, to our doom with the Danse Macabre. I swear, I've kind of spooked myself. I swear someone's here. What is there? What is there? I'm gonna go home. I'm not sure why I thought recording this at night time was a good idea, but I swear I'm being followed. What? No. October 31st. I find myself under a cat purring, noticing one eye is a different colour than the other. How strange. I continue into the grounds of the abbey. It looks to be hundreds of years old. I can feel the suffering in the bones of these burnt out walls. It isn't long before my path is blocked by a closed gate. What secrets lay before me? Forcing the gate open, I am greeted by a tomb for one Joseph Charlatan, complete with conductor's baton in his hand. Whoever the seemingly musical character was, they must have been of significance to warrant a burial ground so lavish. On further inspections, I notice more graves all around, and a door, seemingly possessed by the devil itself. The music that hung in the air like a foul smell is gone. Song fades to snarls, and ripped banners greet me before the final steps to the abbey itself. It is too late to turn back now. Curiosity has gotten me this far. What ungodly creature lies within those walls, and what does it have to do with this gravesite? I am compelled towards a corridor, deeper into the belly of this dark chamber. My eyes would not adjust as quickly as I would like, but my ears do not deceive me. A howling cat echoes around these cursed catacombs. A door suddenly opens and a figure with a lantern guided me towards a crypt bench. Once seated, I could only appreciate the pure scale of this abbey, the detail of the craftwork. I have been led by a song. The time is now. That is the tale of the Danse Macabre, or at least as I understand it. But what of the ride experience itself? In the sake of saving specific details or delving into ride spoilers, all I'm going to say is that it is a perfect example of sound, of light, and of ride hardware into what makes a truly breathtaking experience. In other words, it is very good, but it isn't perfect. Compared to the spectacle of Spookslot, the Danse Macabre is a relatively short ride. Once you actually get going, it doesn't last more than a couple of minutes, and once you really get going, it soon pulls back for the finale. There are also some pretty harsh projections. Having said that, it does seem that Efteling are still refining parts of the ride and changing the cycle, so this could be addressed in the future. There is also a hell of a lot of waiting around, due to the nature of the motion stages that everyone gets on, the attraction starts, and then everyone gets off. Now during this time, the rest of us are just stationary in the queue. This is only really noticeable inside the catacombs, and the use of checkpoints helps keep guests flowing. The main checkpoint is the area of which the statue of Joseph Charlatan is. Now I've actually heard this being referred to as the pre-show. However, I would call it, once again, more of a holding section. There is some audio from a narrator played here, but for an international guest, this adds little value to the ride, and even if you do speak Dutch, the volume of the narration is quite low, meaning you can't really hear it over the general crowd ambience and added sound effects. I personally like a little theatrics to class something as a pre-show. And once you make it inside the building itself, there is absolutely nothing but dimly lit lanterns and cat sounds in what seems as an eternity of nothingness. These are just small gripes on what is a truly breathtaking experience. After every single one of my rides, the crowd just burst into applause. Every detail is beautifully crafted, and honestly, you just get lost in the theatrics of the attraction. Classical music can stir your emotions like no other genre, and well, this composition, it really moves you. For a multilingual park like Efteling, especially one that has a lot of heritage, crafting a new attraction that heavily relies on a narrative must be an incredibly difficult task, and the designers of the Danse Macabre would have to tread a thin line of adding enough Easter eggs for fans, all without alienating casual guests or leaving visitors from abroad clueless on what could be potentially enriching details. Luckily, this is not their first rodeo, and for the most part, the queue sets the scene and provides enough visual detail to lay a solid foundation for the spectacle to come, even if you know nothing of Spookslot or the Charlatan Story. Do you need to know the backstory of the charlatans to enjoy the Danse Macabre? No, absolutely not. It's an added enrichment that once we leave the park, you can still enjoy. Sometimes attractions are greater than the sum of their parts, and the areas they reside in gift us a new world to be immersed in. Areas like Thunder Mesa, Rookborough, and I think the Danse Macabre and the area of Haverwild is well on its way to becoming one. Now, if you've made it this far, I would just love to say an absolutely huge thank you for watching. And if you haven't ridden the Danse Macabre yet, or you're new to the world of Efteling, then please check out this video showing more of the rides in detail. Efteling is one of my favourite places in the whole world, full stop. And I will see you next time. Bye.